There we go. I'm back on. Okay, so we're going to start our hearing.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue.
Very good. So this is a special city council meeting called
Please
for...
enter the meeting password followed by pound. You have not entered any
not yet.
numbers. Please.
Technology one.
That's true. That is true. Are we good? Oh, that's right. Yeah. You guys haven't seen the shade. So, yeah. It's nice. So.
Mine was looking like Jess this weekend.
Should have kept it.
Chrome? A lot more green in it this time. Get rid of it. I don't think he's hooked up right yet. Got dueling computers over there. See who can get there first.
As long as they're not fighting against each other. Keep each other
Right?
out.
Maybe that's the problem. Short timer. Charging that equipment. Does it enough on its own, yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to? I haven't heard from anybody if they're
Oh, I
interested.
replied. Chuck replied.
To me?
Oh, we're in.
Okay.
For the ride, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
Diana replied as well. She said she
I didn't get any of that.
You didn't? Oh, well, we all, I don't know who replied.
They left you off the
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue.
I don't know what truck.
She said she was just calling.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter the meeting password followed by pound.
What?
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter the meeting password followed by pound. You have not entered any numbers. Goodbye.
Should we just have her call in?
Yeah.
Okay. What number? How does she get that? We're gonna have to, I don't know. This is gonna ring in
You just call her on my phone?
Yeah, we can do that. We could,
You could call her on
yeah, Councilor Doty, just call
You tell me what you want to do.
You can call her on the phone and then she'll be on mic and everything.
Okay.
What's her number?
Hello?
There.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect, sorry about that. Just some technical difficulties, so we figure we'll just get you
That's
on the
okay.
phone. So,
Yeah, yep, it makes it easier.
okay, so I think now we are ready. So this is for a special city council meeting on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. The time is just after 4 p.m. So a light agenda this evening. So we just have two items on the agenda. First one is approved resolution authorizing approval of an addendum to the lease agreement between the City of Caldwell and the Treasure Valley Community College, Caldwell campus. And the second is for approved request for issuance of a new alcohol beverage license for Casa Anejo LLC for the Casa Anejo restaurant located at 812 Main Street in Caldwell. So since we were doing this one this evening, we went ahead and threw that second one on just to get it taken care of sooner rather than later. And we appreciate you coming in on this Tuesday when we're not scheduled to have a city council meeting. I know time is of the essence. They're wanting to get that third floor started soon so they can get the students back up there before they start school again. So since we're not meeting again till next week, thought this would give them a chance to get hopefully even started before then in regards to that third floor. So with that, we'll begin with the first item. Again, that this is for the approval of the addendum to the lease agreement between Caldwell and Treasure Valley Community College. And yes, we will have the clerk call roll, please. Okay.
Jody,
Here.
Sonic,
Here.
Register,
Here.
McGee,
Here.
Allgood,
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Again, all city council members are present and accounted for. Council Register is joining us via telephone, so we do appreciate her chiming in on this. And thank you for that reminder, so I don't have my little agenda thing in front of me. So we will move on then with that resolution authorizing the addendum. And Brent, are you going to, or is Mark, Doug, which one is presenting on that? So, okay, very good. So as he's coming up, so this, obviously we've had lots of discussion on this. It's taken a little bit of time back and forth between ourselves and TVCC. We appreciate them and their willingness to work with us on this. As you know, their lease agreement runs through the end of this decade. And so we appreciate them being willing to adjust that to allow us for our expanding city employees to have somewhere to work all together under one roof. So, Mr. Waterman.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief. The decision was made to do an amended, restated lease agreement as opposed to trying to do some sort of just amendment to the existing lease agreement. So when the parties have questions about what the lease says, they can go to this single document instead of going to bits and pieces of multiple documents. The TVCC, instead of leasing what they're leasing now, will be leasing just the third floor. So they'll be limiting their use to just that third floor. The term will last until June 30th of 2030. The original date, I think, was a December end date. The concern was, well, that's the middle of the school year, so how's that going to work? So that term is now June 30th, 2030. No rent's being paid. Again, this has been a negotiation with them to try to free up the space and provide them with what they need and also provide the city with what it needs. And then you've got standard lease provisions about quiet enjoyment and the lessor's right to enter and make inspections and provide notice to tenants. Obligations about maintenance, repair, utilities. One of the things that was added from the old lease that's new is that the current sign on the exterior of the building, TVCC wants the city to replace the plexiglass face to that. It's getting a little faded. And so that is in here. Other than that, I don't think I had any specific comments. We worked with the mayor and with Abby Lee on what this needs to look like, and I think the parties at the end of the day were in agreement. So that's what's before you. I'm happy to take a run on answering any specific questions.
Very good. I'll just make one quick comment on that last part you mentioned about the sign. So that's kind of, we apologize for getting this to you just today. We are working through that. They asked us not to bother them over the Memorial weekend, but we noticed that just on the last revision that came in, that was added about the signage. And so there was just some, we didn't have all the details. Are you asking us to replace the entire sign, frame and everything, which to me could be a really large cost? So we wanted to get that figured out. So I was texting with Senator Lee today and indicated that no, they don't want the full signage, just be the plexiglass inside of that. So it should be pretty minimal cost on that, to update that and get that looking nice and new again. So, but again, we did not want to put that in there if it was going to be, this number we weren't aware of, but something of that nature should be very simple and, fairly inexpensive just to replace that lettering. And so, yeah, that's all on that. So questions from council for Mr. Waterman on any of that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Doty.
or whoever can answer it, but, just to be clear, not only to the public, but to us as well, how much was TVCC originally paying per year to occupy the building?
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was $200,000, I believe. So they had the fee was $200,000, then if they reached certain student population, then it would increase from there. But I think there were several hundred, if not even thousands of students off of getting above of that minimum amount, if I remember correct.
And then, Mr. Mayor, is the goal still then to, as we leave the buildings in order to occupy the TVCC building for now, would that be to sell those properties to offset some of this? So that's my concern, right, is that we're going from 200,000 to one. I don't think it's only my concern. But, in some of our negotiations or talks or discussion rather, we talked about then maybe selling that property and the city wouldn't retain the property we're moving from.
Yes. Yeah, no, thank you for that, Trevor. So yes, that is the plan, to, in some way, shape, or form, sell off the property where City Hall currently is at, so it's that full half a block, plus that little strip where the parking areas, where you see a lot of the police cars park, things of that nature, city employees park. So that's part of it as well. So to dispose of that, through the sale of that property and to acquire at least the amount of money that's being spent on the remodel. So that would be the ultimate plan. And then also, obviously, that puts it onto the tax rolls as well, which is a good thing. Yes, Councilor Allgood?
Follow-up question. I'm following up on Councilor Doty's comments. So we would be foregoing $200,000 a year and picking up the entire cost of all utilities and repair on the building, according to the contract. And we do pick up the repair on the building already, but part of that $200,000 always has covered that previously. So we're foregoing $200,000 plus, including the cost of the ongoing maintenance of that building. So is this something that we'll see at budget time, coming up in July, or what's the thought there?
So, and I don't believe Raylan's here on that. So that 200,000 was kind of set aside. So it shouldn't have, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong. So that was not money that was appropriated to other departments, to offset any costs that they had. It was set aside in an account for any, expenses, things of that nature that we needed to do on that regard. So it should not affect any of the department's budget money, because they did not see that money. It just went into that account for that regard. Does that sound correct, Mr. Orton?
Mayor, that's my understanding. I think when we approved the design contract that Raylyn had taken care of that, she had that money set aside. And I don't know if it turned out that it was I'm sorry for not knowing. I don't know if it was a budget amendment or part of the budget amendment to do that or not, but the design costs weren't to be billed. These costs were not allocated to the departments individually. This was a general fund expense, as I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, but
Yes, go right ahead.
it was in the possession of Urban Renewal until last year, and because Urban Renewal sunsetted, it was moved to being owned by the city, and there was a dollar amount, I'm guessing $700,000, that all the money that came in from TVCC was set aside, and I believe all of that was transferred from Urban Renewal to the city at the time of that transfer. Am I correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Allgood, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you that Urban Renewal paid for the first $35,000 for the preliminary design. It was kind of a feasibility design. And then we did ask them if they were interested in paying for the rest of it, which was after the building had transferred to the city, and they said, no, we really think that's a city expense, and so but I don't know the answer to your question about if those monies, I presume that that's the case, but I don't know for a fact.
we recently replaced the floors over there, some of the floors. Was that out of that fund, Brent, do you know?
That was specifically budgeted by Urban Renewal in the 2022 budget, to repair the floors. They budgeted $100,000 for that effort to fix the gypcrete that was crushing and turning to powder under the carpet tiles there. So I don't know that that was billed out of the maintenance money. I think it was specifically separately budgeted.
So, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I may on top of that.
Mhm.
So the 200,000 a year that was coming in urban renewal, was that, does anyone know, was that in its own pot and we never spent any money out of that? And then, because that would be huge if it's just sitting there, then that would offset a lot of the expenses there.
Yeah,
What-
and-
What happened to the 200,000 a year, I guess, is the question.
And I think most of it got spent, if I'm not mistaken. There was not a huge amount of money. There was some in there, if I remember, it was like around, it was under $500,000, if I remember correctly. So it had not been adding up over the years, so, I'm not sure what all the expenses on that, but I know it was, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was under $500,000 that was in that, kind of like a fund balance that they had on that, if I remember correct.
And Mr. Mayor, I can't confirm or deny that. I can tell you that I expect that the maintenance and operations elements that were happening were built there, repairs to the condensers, repairs to HVAC equipment. We lost a leg of power because of a Mylar balloon, believe it or not. Took out one of the time delay fuses on the three-phase power about 2 weeks ago, and about $3,000 of damage to a motor that we had to replace. So those kind of things I think are billing against that. But that's all I can really give you or account for. Sorry.
Yeah, Councilor Richard, or, sorry.
What's the square footage of that building, you know?
I can come up with that if you give me a minute.
Okay.
I'll report back.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Register.
I have a quick question. On the buildings that you're talking about selling, do we have people in those buildings, like specifically from the police department or other places that aren't going to TVCC with us that are working out of those buildings now?
So the plan is for everyone at what's kind of termed 621 Cleveland, that's where planning and zoning is, building department, engineering, and then everyone at 411, which is City Hall, will relocate to the TVCC building. And police will remain where they're at. They will, so where we're sitting right now in the city council chambers, this is obviously part of the police department, so they will be able to utilize this space because the new city council chambers will be in the new building. So none of them going over, but they will be able to, you said, utilize this room, this entire room for whatever they see fit. And for
Well,
them.
except, yeah, I understand that, except it's a community room, so I think they use that for people come in and either rent or use the space for their meetings or whatever it is they do. So beyond city council, but my concern is how many people, do you know how many, like for the police department, we're going to be putting back into the police department? Because I think they're kind of bursting at the seams. So I'm trying to figure out if that's going to be a problem later, because now they're going to be moving space.
Yeah, so nobody at City Hall or 621. There is the building where the SROs use. That's on the thing. Lieutenant Wright is here with us. So he could speak to that if they feel that they're going to be cramped with finding that space for those individuals.
Maybe that's the division I'm thinking of. I wasn't clear exactly which one it was, but I am curious where they're going to put them. And then how that's going to affect us later. Like, not that I'm against this project, but just are we going to be looking at spending more money soon or in the next however many years expanding the police department as well as we're getting rid of those buildings?
Lieutenant Wright?
Dave Wright. Yes, we have approximately 16 officers in there, and we would have to find a different location for them. And if we were to move them in the station in here, we would have to develop some place for them to be at that. But we would have a cost that would occur to move them. Because right now we use this as a training room.
It's okay. And is there space at the police department to develop space for them, or would it have to be something, would we have to buy another building to start housing the growth of the police department?
We have a couple areas that we think that we can restructure and get more space available for more employees in. We're not currently set up as best as we could with the furniture we have. so we could redesign a couple and gain some space for some employees.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Other questions, Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just more of a comment than anything, because I know initially when we discussed this, I was really concerned about the whole nature of it, but I think it's important that we remember that if this isn't the solution, what we're talking about right now, we're gonna have to come up with another solution because we're overcrowded at City Hall already. The expansion, the growth, the development at City Hall with city government would demand that we either lease another building for City Hall and then have another location to be spread out to, in addition to the 3 that we're already in, if you count the airport annex. And so this seems to be efficient government to try to get everybody under one roof. And I think that was one of the things that helped persuade me that this was a logical way to go. If we didn't lease something else, we'd have to buy an entirely different building and still demolish the current ones we're in, and we're talking about a lot more money than we're negotiating over right now. And so I just want to chime in here and say that I thought that was a reasonable consideration in the whole process here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you mentioning that. I know we used to have a conference room at City Hall. We don't anymore because our three IT are now sharing that as one office. Ray Lynn, which I think you all know, our finance director, is in her 3rd office, and she's been here less than 6 months because she keeps moving. So she recently just moved to a smaller office so they could put 2 people into her old office. So yeah, definitely, if this isn't the solution, then yeah, we'd have to buy or lease another building somewhere in downtown to put these employees, because there are multiple offices with 2 or 3 people in them right now, so.
I have a couple
Yes,
more questions.
yeah.
I'll just
Mhm.
keep reading this thing.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Council, do we have the footage?
36,000 square feet, 12,000 square feet per floor.
36,000? Okay, thank you.
I'm a little bothered that we haven't heard from anybody from TVCC. We've talked about this a couple of times and we never had anyone show up. I would have loved to hear about from them, just what they think about it. But secondly, at a previous meeting, we talked about the actual square footage is smaller than the square footage we occupy spread out through the city. And I can't remember, was that square footage considering all 3 floors or just the 2 floors? I mean, with just 2 floors, do we have enough room?
Yeah, I think it was about the same, if I remember. I thought the first thought was that it was smaller, but then I think Brent had done some calculations and it came out about the same, and that we'll be able to utilize obviously the space a lot better. We've kind of taken with both buildings, we're not designed to be city offices. One was a bank, I think, and I don't know what the city hall was once. It may have been a bank also, I don't know, but so with it, be able to have the new layout, new design, to configure that in a more productive way, to be able to utilize that space much, much better and get more people in there, rather than losing all the space that we currently lose at City Hall.
City Hall is about 6,400 square feet, probably about 6,200 square feet net after you take the walls out. Probably 6,000 square feet after you take the walls out. And that's not including the basement. We do have some basement space there, but it's not really office space. So that's single story. I'll get you a number for 621.
So we are increasing space.
We may be, because I'd be surprised if 621 is more than, what would have to be more than 16,000 square feet. So, Councilor Stoddard.
Do we know what the square footage will be if we go ahead with this lease that they are using?
Yes.
Or will be using?
If we took 2 floors, we would gain 24,000 square feet, would be what we'd be coming into. And then if we gain that additional 12,000 square feet, if the council chose at the future time when their lease expires to, if we kept them there, then we'd be sticking with the 24,000 square feet, the 2 floors. We'd add 12,000 square feet to that if we took on the 3rd floor at that time.
So they'll be using 12,000 square feet, is that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just, Mr. Mayor, I just
Yes.
have a few comments. First of all, I used to be in the retailing business for a while, but when you take the 200,000 divided by the 36,000 square feet, that's only 556, or $5.56 per square foot. And that's unheard of as far as rentals. I mean, my goodness, when I was in the business, it was $100 a square foot to rent something like that. So in other words, that's a sweetheart deal to start with. And the second problem I've got is, even if we went down to 24,000 square feet, we're only gonna charge $1 a year? I mean, how does that, I mean, I don't understand the negotiations on that. Why, at least bring it up to $5.50 a square foot, which is ridiculous to start with, you know, for the amount of space they're gonna use. You know, don't change the numbers at all, but $1 a year for 12,000 square feet.
Yeah, so.
Whoever was on that negotiating team, if I was king for a day, they'd be fired, so anyway.
So kind of the reason gets, so obviously there's nothing we can do about the $200,000. That was approved, back, in 2018, I believe, by the council and mayor at that time. And the lease goes, like we said, the lease is there through the end of 2029. So we cannot force their hand, anything on that. So I know that was, part of that was realizing that, you know, for them to move to the third floor, they were not really in favor of it at first. And so we were working that back and forth and realized that they held all the cards, unfortunately. So, and I think we had discussed it when we talked about it. Is it better to continue charging them that and have to buy another building or lease another building, or is it better to work with them and allow them to occupy that space so that we can move into that building? Was kind of the original, some of the discussions we had. And at that time, and I get it, understand that thoughts changed. I know at that time the thought was we just need to get in that building and work with them on that regards. So that's kind of what got us here.
I mean, isn't it, I mean, just common sense tells you what they're asking for. Isn't that a little bit unreasonable though?
So.
I mean, gee.
Mr. Mayor.
I can understand, Mr. Williams' side of the story, that, you know, we need the space and all. I understand that fully, and it would cost us probably more money, but my goodness, I mean, to me, it's just unreasonable that, they're requesting $1 per year, and then we pay the rest of the stuff too. I just, anyway, I'll shut up, so.
Yeah, no, comments are always appreciated on that. Oh, yeah, Mr. Orton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the plan is at this point, retain 621, Public Works stays there, the Fire Administration goes there, Economic Development goes there, and right now they're housed at the airport. So I did calculate the square footage there, but really the relevant thing is that we have, in terms of office space, we have about 6,200 square feet at City Hall at 411. And there is, of course, a basement that is helpful for record storage, but not probable, there's no windows, there's no egress, it's probably not appropriate for office space downstairs. 621 altogether is about 12,600 square feet, top and bottom. And that includes a couple of maintenance rooms and things that are not office worthy, but we're retaining that. So you're really going from 6,200 square feet of office space plus some good storage space. I don't know exactly what that is. It's not a full basement on City Hall. It's a large basement. It's not full. 6,200 to 24,000 square feet. So there's a good increase in area in as much as we're keeping 621. If you were adding 621 to it, that'd be a total space going from a total of 18,800 square feet to 24,000 square feet. So there's still a 6,000 square foot gain, even if we left 621 behind.
Very good, thank you so much.
Oh, go ahead. Well, and just a comment on that, I think Councilor Stoddard brings up a good point, but if we have to lease a building, then $100 a square foot to lease a building, right? So I mean, though neither one is ideal in how we can make the most money or squeeze the most out of this turnip, but if we don't, then you're leasing it the higher, and there's no way we're gonna get a deal for $5.56 a square foot either. So, yeah, right.
You're absolutely right.
So either way, we're gonna pay a lot more in a lease, or do we take this deal that isn't maybe as sound as we'd like it as well? That's all I would say.
Yeah, no.
Mayor, I'm sorry, but furthermore, TVCC is not on the tax rolls right now. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so if we did purchase another building or build another building, we'd be taking something else off the tax rolls to do that. So there's one more thing to consider.
Counselor Allgood?
Yeah, so I don't have any numbers for Treasure Valley Community College. Do they absolutely need a floor of that building? I mean, do they have a student population that, the reason I'm saying that is for $1 a year, I'd rather just have all 3 floors and turn it into, you know what I'm saying? If for some reason we could, you know, I like TVCC down there. I know the plan was to have a local college downtown. But for $1 a year, holding that space for 7 years is, I'm just wondering, is there anywhere they would be willing to move that would allow us just to renovate the whole thing all at once and be done? Has that been discussed or negotiated?
It has, and they are not in favor of that at the moment. That may change in the future. I know actually this, last chance I had to meet with, Senator Lee and appreciate all that she's done in helping kind of moving this forward, was the legislature, and I don't follow it too closely, but I don't know if anybody else does. They passed, and I can't remember if it was $8,000 that in this last one to provide for college education. And I know that they had actually indicated that they are getting a lot of requests now, so they were actually kind of disappointed. I don't know if maybe disappointed is the wrong word, but they were like, you know, actually it'd be nice for us to maybe not even do this because we think we might get more students or could, but they were committed to it on that. So I know that at the moment, they're wanting to keep that 3rd floor. Could that change in the future? It could. But I said we were trying to just get to the finish line on this part, and then if it worked out for them in a different location or something in the future, we could obviously work with them at that point. But that would be kind of their call and their decision of how they wanted and if they wanted to move forward with that. Councilor McGee, did you have a question earlier, or?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a thought. I think Councilman Doty's probably right on this. It's. I may not say that again, but it's
on the record.
It's the worst. Yeah, scratch that, Angie. We're in a tough spot, right? This is not a perfect deal. In fact, some of it doesn't work at all for me, and as I think best described by Councilman Allgood, there's some of this just doesn't pencil out at all, and Councilman Stoddard said it as well. I can't imagine that this lease is going to last 7 years. I mean, it's going to be renegotiated based on the facts of the situation, and I think another council is going to look at this at some point and say this needs to be, you know, we need to do something different. I think where we are, Mayor, is we see the opportunity here to be down there and kind of consolidate forces. And that's probably a better working situation for the city of Caldwell. We do gain space, as Mr. Horton was saying, office square footage, because I think the last meeting, as Councilman Allgood stated, I was under the impression that it was a wash, but I'm glad to hear that it sounds like, at least from office space is concerned, that it's a gain, in fact, it's a substantial gain. And so I'm probably gonna hold my nose and just approve of this simply because I think it's about the only thing to do. As Councilman Stoddard said, I don't know when he was in retail, but $100 per square foot, I mean, I can't even imagine, like 2023, what we'd really be looking at, right? So I'm gonna trust the mayor and Senator Lee's negotiations and that they've come up with a good deal. I have questions about it, as have been raised here, but I think, Mayor, the reason why you brought us together today was that time was of the essence, because of the schedule, using the summer to transform that, so we can make sure that we get them ready by the fall, or at least partially ready. And so I'm trying to take a big picture look at this, and I have some concerns about it, but I think overall it's probably the best thing to do.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Just one last comment, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. I just want to remind everybody too that it did cost the taxpayers, I think it was $15.5 million to build that doggone thing. And I'm going to be holding more than my nose and my mouth and my ears and everything on this, but the $100 a square foot, that was back in the late 60s, Councilor McGee, when I was there. So, and you can't even come close to that now.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thanks.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Other comments or Questions? Okay, Councilor Register, do you have any other comments or questions?
I don't, thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, so with that, like I said, this is a resolution, so we don't need to close the public testimony portion of this. And we just stand for any motions and then we'll have any discussion on that motions.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor McGee.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the resolution of the lease agreement between the City of Caldwell and TVCC Caldwell Campus be approved.
Okay, so we have a motion for approval of the resolution for the addendum to the lease agreement. Do we have a second? So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Williams for the approval of this resolution. Any discussion on that motion?
I just one little
Yes,
bit.
go right ahead.
I completely understand where everybody's coming from here. I know where we're at, but I feel like it's not ready. I'm struggling with the cost, the dollar amount, and the fact that we're developing 2/3 of a building. I'm probably gonna be a no vote on this. I just I can't hold my nose long enough there, but anyway.
Very good. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, very good. Then, Madam Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
McGee?
Yes.
Colvin?
No.
Williams?
Yes.
Doty?
Yes.
Sadek?
No.
Register?
Yes.
Very good. So if my math is correct, that's Caldwell math, not Valley View, so we might need to double check it. I believe that's 4 yeses and 2 noes. Is that
That's it.
correct? Okay. So then that motion does pass, with 4 in favor and 2 in opposition to that resolution. So that moves us on to the next item, and this again is the request for issuance of a new alcohol beverage license for Casa Anejo in downtown Caldwell. And I don't believe we need any discussion on this, correct, Mr. Attorney? Okay. He's shaking his head no, so we'll say no, we don't need that. Very good. So, again, these are typically standard. Usually these are on consent calendar. That's why you probably like, have we done this before? So usually they're up in the top portion. So, this is just, again, the transfer of it to Casa Anejo LLC. As I believe they were renting the building and now looking at purchasing. Does that sound correct, Danny, up there? Changing ownership. So that's all that this is for. So with that, do we have a motion for approval of that request?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the request for the issuance of a new alcohol beverage license to Casa Anejo for the restaurant located at 812 Main Street in Caldwell.
Very good. So we have a motion from Councilor McGee. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Stoddard. And we can just do a voice vote on this, right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And that is all that we have on the agenda this evening. So congratulations, Danny. It's good to see you. Hopefully business is doing good. So if you haven't been to Casa Anejo, you need to go. It's excellent food, a great building. So thank you for all you do for downtown Caldwell. So that's right. Very good. Okay. Now you're supposed to see him legally now. So. Thank you, Danny. Okay. So with that, stand for a motion to close this special city council meeting. And a second? Second. And then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. We are closed. And thank you again for coming in on your Tuesday evening. So glad we got Councilor to get to his table tonight.